Hello and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I am Brad, joined by Matt and Shad. How are you doing this week, gentlemen? We missed quite the should we call it a train wreck the last like 2 weeks? Have you
Sure,
ever
train wreck's a good term.
have you ever seen a company just crash and burn? Like, well, I have to admit, I was listening to Trish and Sarah and the flagship the last couple days, and they kind of pointed out that this has been kind of a slow motion crash in progress since
Yeah.
because so there's a lot of back and forth because the the Triple H faction, I would call it, and his bootlickers are kind of trying to blame this all on Rock. And I kind of agree with what Joe Lanzon, the flagship, said was if you really think about the timeline when Rock came onto that first Netflix episode and like burned all of his storylines down, he never was going to go to WrestleMania. And in fact, I think Dave Meltzer took a lot of heat in December for saying Rock wasn't going to be on Mania. And
Oh yeah.
and the Rock story, which I tend to believe, and people check the ticket sales, both the flagship and Trish and Sarah verified this, but
Yeah.
he got a call from the head muckety muck to do Elimination Chamber because the tickets weren't selling. So he came in
Yeah.
for one shot to save that show and then went on his merry way.
Well, another thing that that Meltzer got heat for, that he reported back in the day was that at least Rock like wanted to turn Cody heel, and that's why he was doing the whole like, Cody, like, sell me your soul.
Yeah.
Because that was supposed to be like, and then there was internal power struggle, and Cody himself like didn't want to turn heel, so that's why they went with John Cena. They say like he chose to do it, which I'm sure they probably would like. Look, like, how about you turn heel? We have a story like here. You can win the championship, and he's probably like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I mean, he doesn't care. He's in his final year, and it would be interesting, and was interesting for like a hot minute
until they did the "You People" promos that they kind of then quickly turned away from.
We kind of touched upon it before, but it was. I think it's almost like you're doomed out the gate when it's like you had this hot angle, you turn heel, then it's like, now tune in 3 weeks from now until John Cena appears and talks about it. It's like, no.
And
like,
then
if you're going to pull the trigger on this, then you should have made sure like he was going to be on the next day. Or if he can't be on the next day because he has some sort of like Hollywood commitment, have him, after the show he's on, have him cut like a promo, tape it, and then air it like the next night. But
that first promo was a loser, though. I think it would have done less damage, but like the second he did like the standard "You People" like WWE heel turn promo, it was like, oh my gosh. What were you gonna say, Matt?
Well, this, to verify what you're saying about Rock like coming in, you can say like, well, Joe Lanza and Trish and Sarah talked about it, and they did. I haven't heard that audio.
So
I've heard some people reference it. But before that, hold on.
Okay.
Before I get what they said, Rock himself, like on Tuesday of last week, or sometime in the last week, because like WrestleMania was not well received.
No.
And afterwards, Rock like went on the Pat McAfee show, and that's when he basically, pardon my language, fucking threw Triple H right under the bus. Because he's like, yeah, like, I was never going to be part of WrestleMania. That was never the plan. Which Dave Meltzer did report that. To his credit, also, Rock back in the day, like on Twitter or Instagram, someone was like, oh, you're not going to be at WrestleMania, like referencing the Meltzer thing. Not specifically referencing Dave, but Rock himself commented, which he's look, it's a carny business. I'm sure he's just trying to like keep interest up. And he's like, yeah, I don't believe everything you hear, it's like implying like, oh, I'll still be part of Mania. I could show up. Point is, he went on McAfee's radio show, podcast, whatever he has. And when McAfee isn't like, claiming that college girls are having sex with players that Sorry, I'm referencing a scandal he's part of right now. If you
Oh God!
if you never heard about that, it's a separate thing. But the point is, like, he went on his show and he threw Triple H under the bus, saying like, "Yeah, ticket sales were abysmal, so TKO personally called me up to like come in and like be part of it to gin up ticket sales," and it totally threw Triple H under the bus because it's true. Like, ticket sales
They had sold,
weren't that good.
No, it was like so it's like I'm going base numbers here. They did, which I think they made a stupid choice to begin with. They did a stadium for Elimination Chamber, which I think was just a fucking stupid idea. But it was like a 50,000 seat like stadium. They had sold half of it, and then Rock moved like 10,000 to 12,000 more seats just by being part of the show. And they did comparisons.
I think the numbers were they had sold 20, and Rock shows up and moves another like 12,000 or something.
Yeah, because they did comparisons of like final day sales for it too, and a lot of shows were like in the teens and a little under. One was like 18% for like how much of their total ticket sales they sold, and in that same time frame, Elimination Chamber, it was 26%. So it was a market increase in sales. But so his story does check out in that aspect.
I was going to add one other thing, and I didn't know about this because I didn't watch any Mania stuff. I didn't care, but someone pointed out that whenever you got a pre-show set up, everybody, no matter who it was, so the last 10 minutes are usually the hard sell to try and get those last few people to buy the pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, in the lead-in to Mania, the last 10 minutes of the pre-show were all, well, what's Rock going to do if he shows it? Doesn't he have to show up? Doesn't Rock need to be here to safeguard it? And it's like, y'all knew full well dude wasn't there, right? So
yeah.
Who's issuing that directive?
Triple H, I think, was trying to throw Rock under the bus there.
Yeah, he was trying to do that, and I'd listened to a little bit of the Trish and Sarah stuff too, and they referred to it as the Triple H Blame Rock tour getting ready to fire up. But except Rock got out in front of it.
Well, and the thing is, like, he's not going to win a war with The Rock because I think TKO has much more faith in him. And he's much higher up in the hierarchy. Like, he's bought in. Triple H is not bought in.
Look. Like, it still has to be resolved, and I think it will, and it wouldn't surprise me unless it's settled. By the end of the day, I would not be shocked if the Janelle Grant lawsuit winds up with some very prominent people getting the boot, and I can see Triple H being one of them.
I don't think he would be. Like, I know he's vaguely mentioned in there. Okay. I'm going to say, I don't think he will unless there's not enough people left that were named and they need him to, like, fall on the sword. That's the only way I see him going. Like, I think if...
Depends. I think it depends upon how much information comes out in Discovery. If it comes out that he knew a lot of this stuff going on, even, like, obliquely, I'm sure he could always be like, well, he didn't know, like, some of these allegations. He didn't know there was sexual assault or whatever. But I mean, he is basically an idiot that all throughout that whole thing has been, well, I didn't even read the lawsuit. It's like, you didn't read the lawsuit that names you and the company that you work for and makes allegations about your father-in-law. You didn't read that. Meanwhile, like, people like us, just ordinary people, like, we read the lawsuit or the facts about the case and everything like that. So even like in the world of like PR, it's like, what a dumb comment to make. He could just get out there and be like, hey, it's like an ongoing situation. I can't comment on it.
That's all you got to do. It's pending litigation.
He has to be like that level of stupid. Oh, I didn't read it.
Can we talk about...
It's so easy. It's so easy. That's pending litigation. I'm not supposed to talk about it. Next question.
It's obviously not. It's obviously not, because I have literally seen 2 YouTubers in the last couple of months not shut the fuck up about ongoing litigation, because you had Carl Jobst, who wouldn't shut the fuck up during a defamation case, and you had that idiot Destiny, who's getting like sued civilly for sex pestery and revenge porn, he released a goddamn manifesto that's like 50 minutes long talking about it and showing texts that makes him look so terrible that you could just see the dollar signs going up for like what she's going to take him for.
I have seen one. I've seen
Yeah.
one YouTuber who was accused of something, and the lawyers got involved and decided to hit back on it. But he straight up had the receipts. That's the only time I've seen.
I mean, you know who doesn't talk about his case? Because CoffeeZilla doesn't say a goddamn thing about the Pauls because he's not an idiot. But obviously, it's very difficult to.
What are you gonna say, Matt?
I will say this: as someone with a law degree, I'm an attorney. I can't give you unsolicited legal advice. I'm not going to be one of these like YouTubers giving legal advice or legal commentary. I'll just give you some practical advice that anyone should know because it's common sense. But I will also say with a little flavor is like in the legal world. If you were involved in some sort of criminal investigation or just like civil litigation, just shut the fuck up. Don't talk about it. Talk about it with your attorney. Or talk about it. Shut up. Yes. Talk about it with your attorney. And if you have to talk to like the authorities, like, okay, the judge is asking you to make this motion or make a pleading. Okay. Then you, in formal documents that you submit to the court, you do it. Otherwise, shut up. Do not talk. Do not talk.
You will not make it better.
Nothing good will come of it.
You will not make it better. You will only make it worse. Like, you will only make it worse because here's the thing. Because I listened to a lawyer, he went through the Destiny Manifesto, and he's a practicing attorney, like a defense attorney. And he's like, oh yeah, well, like this, I would come back to this repeatedly. Because he said collateral damage about the person, and he's like, oh, I would rake him over the coals for this, like, repeatedly. Oh. And then he would say something else like, so this is what you mean by collateral damage? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why you don't talk.
Yes, because all of that Destiny or whomever is putting out there, let's use Destiny. All that you're putting out there, let's say you do a 50-minute video, everything that you are saying about that, like if I'm the opposing attorney, I'm literally going to my like assistant or whatever, and I'm like, you or someone, hire someone, they need to listen to every single second of this and take detailed notes with timestamps because all of this shit is going to be I'm going to get this shit in the case. I'm going to make it admissible.
This is going into discovery now.
Oh, and it's going, when in trial, I'm literally going to be pulling out a stack of papers that's just a transcript. Mr. Destiny, at minute 10 minutes, second 25, you said that, oh yeah, the bitch had it coming. What did you mean by that? Like, I'm raking him over the coals. So yes,
I think
don't say anything.
I'm sorry. Just the idea of standing in the courtroom going, and who would that bitch be, sir? Yeah. You know, just making him say that out loud.
I think the problem is with a lot of this stuff. I think the big problem is, and you see it a lot too, like when like Supreme Court cases come out and people like lose their mind about the decision. Like people don't appreciate the power of language and like how minusculely focused on like words, like how in the legal sense, like where a comma is makes a gigantic difference in how something's interpreted. And like when you put out a manifesto like that, you are lurking in waters where lawyers and judges specialize in language. I think that's what people don't understand about like lawyers. Their profession is language.
Language and context and everything like that. Hey Shad, I've got an inside joke. You'll get this reference. Other people will. Good. Let's turn to page 25 of your manifesto, Mr. Destiny, in which you said at the 20-minute mark of your diatribe, hey everyone, did you see Brian's hat? What is that thing he's wearing? Oh my God, Brian's hat just got him in trouble at a meeting.
So then they kind of.
I hope you got the reference instead of just making an ass out of myself. I'm just laughing.
So then they capped off like what I would say is a pretty bad week of PR with this roast, which I think. Oh
my God!
I think, but
the roast. I forgot about that.
But you know what? But you know what I don't understand about the roast is the second we saw that, and we're idiots. Like, I'm just gonna say it straight up, we're fucking idiots. The second we saw that, I said this is only gonna end like terribly for them.
There's no way this goes well.
Because here's the thing with it. I'm not gonna dwell too much on it. Like a lot of people we're clutching their pearls about, and I get why. Like for me, and I agree with like the take Trish and Sarah had on it, is pretty much like, you go to one of those things, you know what you're gonna get. And I don't mind offensive jokes. Like I pretty much don't think most things should be off limits for comedy. But here's the problem with their roast. It wasn't funny. Like you had a bunch of wrestlers saying like, and the one that bothered me is they made an ISIS joke about Jinder Mahal. And Jinder Mahal is a sheik. I can't say that
Sikh.
word.
Sikh.
He's a Sikh. I can't say it properly. And
he's a Sikh
if you know
from India.
Yeah, and if you know anything about...
No, not from India. I'm sorry. He's Canadian with Indian heritage.
Yeah, Indian ancestry.
But if you don't know anything,
and
Sikhs hate
Sikh
Muslims.
is very different than... Yeah,
they hate
very
Muslims.
different religion than Muslims. If he was an Indian Muslim, I guess you could try to make that. But yes. But look, come on. He's brown. So that was the criteria. And from that kind of general
I'm sure it was
of the world.
I'm sure it was one of his friends just teasing him, but like it just but like some of it, like I didn't like a lot of it. And like I said, and a lot of people are mad at the comics. I'm just like, well, like a lot of those guys just have a bad gig and can't make it work.
Well,
but like
the guy who's the host for it is apparently known as a roast comedian and just sucks at it.
He's developed a big following because he has a very popular, I think it's a podcast called Kill Tony, which it's a lot of like inviting comics on, just making like offensive jokes or whatever like that. And look, like I know Brad and I certainly we listen to a lot of shock radio or offensive comedy or whatever back in the day, but this from what people have posted transcripts of this. They've even posted audio. I haven't listened to the audio. I've seen what people are saying, like the jokes were, and you're right. Like they're not funny, which is like the biggest crime in comedy. It's like even more than offensive. It's like it wasn't funny. Like if you're gonna make it you're making like a knock, and some of it's like the lowest hanging fruit too. It's like, oh, you're gonna make a Nakamura because he's Japanese, he's Asian. It's like, oh, making a Nakamura eating dog joke or something like that. One of the Asian ones, I think it was Nakamura, they referenced that. And it's like, all right. First off,
Japanese don't eat dogs. That's like a Korean. That's like a Korean.
It's a Korean thing, but it's also like you're gonna make a joke that's like 50, 60 years old at this point. Like,
yeah. And you don't. One of the things you do with a roast is you don't bag on people who are not there. Okay.
Yeah.
If they're there, they've agreed to be part of it, and so. Jinder Mahal doesn't even work for the company anymore. Oh, let's throw something. Why?
Well,
and then
some of the stuff
wasn't there either.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like the stuff about Maurice wasn't even. It was just like, oh, like Maurice is Louisiana, and I'm like,
I thought. What else I thought was
first of all
weird
not funny. Second of all, her husband's sitting right there, and you're calling her a whore. She's not there, and there's nothing funny here. If you watch good roast comedy, they take something about the person and then they dial the jokes like all the way up. My favorite was Nikki Glaser saying to Tom Brady, how did you lose so much money in crypto? Even Gronkowski knows, even Gronk was saying, me know that not real money. Like, it's a joke. Haha, Gronk dumb. But it's so over the top, you can't take it serious. And it was really funny, but it's just like, oh, he's a really big dude, like, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
But like some of it was weird. Like I felt like some of the bits of it I heard too they weren't even like making jokes. They were airing grievances.
Yes, I was about to get into that. Some of the stuff, it's like the things that were said. This is now edging out of like even like offensive humor or whatever. You're having wrestlers get up there and make jokes that are really like, I really really don't like my coworker, so I'm gonna make a joke at their response, like, and all in good fun. And it's like you're just using this as to say, like, look at this piece of shit, I hate them.
Yeah, and
Like Nia Jax made some really like nasty comments about Charlotte Flair, who I don't believe was there. And it's like, oh, y'all, Nia Jax especially, you really don't like her. Because some of the stuff you said, it's like, even the context of like humor, it's like that's cringe on a different level. It's
the
cringe that
problem
it's
is
like this is not even humor. You're just like flipping the bird.
the
to
problem
Charlotte
is
I'm just
Flair.
being mean to somebody.
the problem is
Yeah,
the
because you
problem
can get away with it.
the problem with like some of that stuff too is like the reason Alec Baldwin's Donald Trump impersonation is garbage is it doesn't work. You have to have an affinity for what you're going after. Like you have to like actually like if you're making a joke at a race, you have to actually like them for it to come off okay because you're poking at them. Like you can be really mean about it, but like you have to like it's the same way when you parody something. You kind of have to actually like it to some degree.
Or you maybe need to, in some cases, you need to be like so over the top with it that it can, in some ways, like humanize or Flanderize like the target. And since you use a president, I'll use like back in the day, like a lot of people would do like impressions of Bush, and sometimes the impressions of Bush would be like, you make him seem like such a bumbling idiot that it almost made like the caricature worked almost because it's like you made him such a like a simpleton that he's almost in like the impersonation or the criticism, whatever. It's almost like endearing in a way. You've made him almost like Homer Simpson, like that level of like just stupid, but almost in a good-natured way, like versus how sometimes they'd be like, is he a bumbling idiot or is he Hitler? Like, you know.
I'll tell you the best
people would.
the best political
Go ahead.
impersonation of all time is Norm Macdonald as Bob Dole.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, okay, to go further back, Dana Carvey's George H.W. Bush impression was funny because it was goofy and silly and over the top.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's a surefire way to get a laugh because honestly, everybody can just enjoy that. It's not hard. You do something, oh, that's funny, that's kind of like him, but it's not, not to do joke autopsy, but it's over the top enough that everybody can find it funny, as opposed to, oh, the people that agree with me are going to like this joke. And it's like, boy, you're banking on an awful lot there. Let's not do that because, and this goes to something else we were talking about. Well, we'll save it. Don't worry about it. It's just, I've heard some of the audio. I read the transcript. It's not funny. It's just not funny.
Well, giving it like they should have. If I was doing it, which I wouldn't have done because that was a bad idea. I would have hired script writers for them. I would have been like, okay, well, who do you want to go after? What's the joke? Okay, well, let's make this work because part of the problem too is why you have like delivery is also important and timing and like inflection and stuff like that's also important, which they're not going to have. But I would have hired writers.
It was just there was so much of it that number one wasn't funny, number two was offensive for the sake of being offensive, and then number three was just downright mean-spirited. That's not what any of this is supposed to be. And then there was a whole lot of, for lack of a better term, people will say clown nose on as a way of being like, I'm just making a joke, but it was like Gacy clown nose on, when it's like, I'm putting this on so that I can, I can be mean. It's like, it wasn't just unfunny. It was so mean. It was really, really uncomfortable. And it's like, what the hell? I don't. Wait.
Can I make an observation just about like that group, like the Tony Hinchcliffe group, whatever. Like, again, there's like we're kind of talking about it off the show. Like, there's a political direction the WWE or TKO has decided they want to fully lean into, and that's their right, okay? But I just find like that, to me, whatever your politics are, like I kind of don't like that group in the sense that sometimes you can see like a direction people are going, or you see like, even if they don't believe that way, that they're like, oh, I think this is my audience, this is an audience that I can, almost like you're a carny. It's like, oh, this is an audience I can like milk out of money because they like my content. It's like, then you start tailoring to that content. To take it in the wrestling world or the wrestling podcast world, it's like there's a lot of anti AEW content out there, and it's like, even people like Jim Cornette, it's like, oh, my audience, it's very toxic, but it's like, oh, my audience really likes me bashing AEW, and they like me making fun of the Bucks or implying that, you know, Kenny Omega's a homosexual and all this other bullshit. Like, they like that, so I'm going to lean into that and do more of it. And some of these like shock comedians, it's almost like you're doing a little too much of that content. It's like, oh, like, and that's always kind of been like with shock humor or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm going to keep saying offensive stuff because that's like the market you're going for.
Yeah.
But I feel some of them are kind of leaning into it too much, where it's like, oh, I'm going to make, like Tony Hinckliffe. He was at, what was it? Was the Republican National Committee or something like that? Where it's like, oh, I'm going to make Puerto Ricans. And it's like, I don't really understand what that's about.
Yeah.
Except that you know dimly that the audience on the right is worked up about immigration, so you're going to make like an immigration about a Latin group, maybe that's your motivation, even though Puerto Ricans are American, so they wouldn't even be immigrants here. But I don't know. Like, I just feel like you're kind of the WWE TKO is kind of trying to tap into like a weird audience, and I don't think it's necessarily good for wrestling.
No.
In general.
Well, I think
and
it's
learned kind of feeding into this. Like this, we said it before. This was just a bad idea, and you're kind of like trying to court an audience that I don't think is good for you.
Well, it doesn't exist
long term. Yeah, well, that too. Like,
well, like
if you're a Tony Hinckliffe fan, I don't know how much crossover there is with like I'm a WWE fan too.
You're watching UFC.
Maybe.
Well,
yeah.
But I think where I think it's dumb is we have a decade of the opposite, which I don't understand why they're making this make. So we have a decade of pretty much all these like entertainment groups veering like hard left and alienating their audiences. So now the WWE is like veering right, and they're going to alienate their audience. Like, it's stupid. Like, you don't do things that are going to alienate half of your audience.
Just, if for no other reason, then fewer people are going to watch your stuff. Well, you're going to make less money.
And I think there's I think it's probably more. I think it's more than that, because I think there's even people that would be like in your ideological sphere, but don't like you going political too, and are just like, meh. Because I've had that happen before, where like people have veered into politics that I agree with, and I'm just like, I don't.
You don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
You want an escape. This is like, I want escape from politics. I want escapist content, escapist entertainment. And wrestling kind of should be that way. And there's people on both sides of the aisle. Some people, like, you have like the people who, and I'm not trying to be disparaging, whatever, but people who are more woke, whatever, they may take the attitude, it's like everything is political. Like, politics is in everything because power structures and everything. That's like, oh, it's like, okay, look, no. And there are other people, like, they want to interject their politics in it too. It's like, no, it's a good thing. Like, we need to counteract. It's like, no, you don't. Like, people want things apolitical. I would like prefer things to be apolitical. I understand that politics and social messaging and everything can creep in, okay, but you don't want to beat people over the head with it or try to specifically court it. I know I don't know if we've talked about it specifically on the show before, but like the classic apocryphal story, because it's supposed to be like a comment he made, but I guess like back in the 90s or something, like there was some sort of controversy allegedly with a Republican Senator Jesse Helms, who's very popular or very notable back in the day. And there was some controversy, and someone was like, Michael Jordan needed to weigh in on this, and he wouldn't. And the alleged comment he made about that, like, why won't you comment on this issue? I don't even know why he would, but I mean, allegedly he was like, well, I don't. Republicans buy sneakers too. Like, why would I piss off
Yeah.
people who could, put money in my pocket by
Right.
like latching onto a political position? And it's like, again, I know all the arguments. If you're a celebrity, you have some sort of voice, you can speak. Like, you maybe need to take a position. I can sympathize with that. I think there's some positions you can take that's fair. Like, but
I just
I don't know. Like, I think I'm okay with it being more apolitical. Or if people want to take a specific message, like if Effie on Big Gay Brunch wants to be like, this is all about pro LGBTQ. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like, but the bigger platforms, you don't need to beat people over the head with it one way or the other.
Well,
necessarily.
You know what I don't get about that stuff, like asking Michael Jordan that is like, there are things people would ask me that are political, and I'd be like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like, I hate, like, especially in a broader sense, I hate when people take these definitive stances about things, and it's like, you don't even, like, have enough information to, like, be that certain about it. Because, like, I've changed my opinions multiple times on certain topics over the years, just as more information comes out. And, like, they're just people that just triple down on their opinion. And it's like...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I think,
yeah.
My favorite example of just doing a small thing was, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but Finn Balor had his Balor Club entrance. And that particular shirt was a rainbow thing, and he had a batch of people that were out on stage with him, and that's what it was. And that's what the statement was, and he made a statement, and then they went on with the rest of the show. Was it terrible? Was it all? No. He did that as his thing, and that was it. And that's, if you're going to do it, that's a good way to do it. But this...
Or how about this, Chad? I know this was a controversy that was in the last, like, year or two, but a state, I think it was like, was Oklahoma or something, where they're trying to do something where it's like, oh, Nyla Rose can't appear. Like, we need, we can't have trans
I think it was
people
Arkansas.
compete. Oh, maybe. Maybe
Oklahoma.
Well, point is, like, there was that, and
yeah,
Tony Khan did, I think, make a statement about that. But then it was also like, Shop AEW. It's like, oh, here's a Nyla Rose, like, pro trans shirt, and it's like, okay, like that. You're doing it more subtle, and it's like, there you go. Like, you're kind of taking, and you should do that anyway, just because it's like, this is my someone like Tony Khan. It's like, this is my employee. Like,
yeah,
don't talk shit about my employee.
Yeah,
like,
don't
you
be
should
a dick to my employee.
Yeah, you should have that just as the boss. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, there we are. Tony Khan being a good boss again.
Yeah.
Oh my God, guys, he hugs people. Look at this asshole. Like,
well, there's a dissonance. There's a real weird dissonance from what some of the stuff they've been doing, and then so the other thing is they bought AAA, which I don't know how I feel about the AAA thing, because, like, let's be honest here, AAA is not in a good place. Conan has completely run that company into the ground. Like, I'm pretty sure the indie, because I've seen some of their shows, and, like, no one goes anymore. I think, like, IWRG draws better crowds. I'm not saying I know this for sure, but, like, when I see those IWRG shows go up, I think that's the right. Is that it? Is that right? It's a Mexican indie. It's where Black Terry works.
Well, did. I think Black Terry just passed away.
Oh yeah, he did. He just, yeah. But like, I've seen some of their crowds recently. I'm like, oh, I think they do better than AAA currently.
AAA has, I think I actually read somewhere whether it's true or not. I don't know, but I can believe it, that AAA only has, like, they bought AAA and they only allegedly have, like, maybe 12 people.
13, I think. I think Lucha Blog and
yeah, it's something like that.
Said that.
Yeah. Everyone else basically just freelances, so it's like they could literally be like, all right, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. I think it's bad, not because AAA will necessarily take over. I know Meltzer, like, because Meltzer is often doom and gloom about all this stuff. Like, I think was writing in the Observer about how, like, oh, this could be bad because, people could just be like, oh, the big production values of WWE, like, we want that over CMLL. But it's like, I think culturally, like, you're still gonna get CMLL as the number one.
CMLL is already advertising 100% authentic Mexican.
Oh, and the thing is, I think it was yesterday, AEW put tickets on sale for AEW Grand Slam, which I think is because Grand Slam is not a pay-per-view, even though people seem to think that that's the case. But I think it's just a Dynamite or Collision.
Grand Slam's never been a pay-per-view. That's always just been a special.
And I think it was wasn't it like at Arena Mexico or something? Anyway, it sold out like immediately.
Yeah, Arena Mexico.
Within like 4 hours, and to the point where they even opened up more seats, which also went immediately. So and I think it was like over 10,000. So obviously, like the AEW CMLL kind of working relationship is going to pay dividends. I personally feel like they should do more. They should, if you're going to have Forbidden Door, you should incorporate a lot of more CML, especially because people are leaving New Japan or, which is another story.
And let's be honest, they're doing this because CMLL's hot as hell right now and selling out everything that they even touch.
People, WWE fans, Fed fans, actually like, oh, AEW doesn't matter, like they don't care. It's like, then why is the promotion you favor, WWE, literally at every step doing everything they can to kill AEW or strangle their ability to actually like acquire talent, to the point where they're even like trying to ruin the indies, that you can't scout talent from the indies.
Yeah.
And I think this is bad in the sense that WWE is trying to get a foothold everywhere it can. So them having a foothold of sorts in Mexico is a bad thing, I think, in general for the industry of pro wrestling. But do I think that means they're gonna like leapfrog to number one? Triple A is gonna go to number one in Mexico? Like, I don't really see it.
Well, they have Well, and the other thing people need to realize before I answer that, you don't want them to win, because look what they did to the UK. They totally trashed their indie scene, and then they just left.
Yeah.
Because they already ruined it because they've gotten too big. But I think CMLL is an uphill battle for WWE, because they have a lot of stuff going for them. One, they're a battle-tested promotion, and they've buried all comers other than UWA for a while, like had them on the ropes. But so here's the thing with CMLL. Okay, one, their primary gig is boxing. CMLL is a side project, so they have pockets. And then I believe the owners of CMLL own Arena Mexico.
They do.
So they own their building.
I think three or four buildings.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, well, we have Arena Mexico, and like WWE could then try and, make moves out elsewhere. It's like they own 3 or 4 buildings. So, and they own them. So it's like they can run those consistently for basically nothing. Like it's a building I own. It's like I run a wrestling show out of my house. It's like I don't got to pay a fee to who am I gonna pay? Myself? Okay, like they just get all the concession money and all that other jazz. But yeah,
and they
have a lot of structural advantages. And WWE, as an aside, they bought Triple H, right? They announced it like Triple A. It's a Triple H. They bought well, they have bought and sold Triple H. Trust me. But they bought Triple A. They announced that like Saturday night, which was also kind of fucked up because Triple A, either as a contracted employee or as a freelancer, they employ I forget his name, but they employ the guy who was arrested for trying to kill, beat Stephanie Vacker so badly that he got arrested for attempted murder on her. They still employ him, and they trotted her out there to like smile as they announced like, oh, we bought AAA, and it's like, have some fucking sense, guys. Like, like this is so tone deaf. But they announced that, and then they spent like the next several days, including the roast we mentioned, just shitting on like Latin people, and he had Paul Heyman on the roast coming up there and making like deportation jokes.
that was on
like,
that was on Pat McAfee. He did that to a heckler.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but people have said that Paul Heyman. I've seen the transcript of Paul Heyman making.
Oh, okay.
Comments.
I'm sorry. I just
whether it was to a heckler or not.
I forgot about that.
He made deportation jokes and or comments like it,
Yeah.
and it's like, are you? And just in generally like even the night of WrestleMania Night 1, after they announced AAA, they had, Chad Gable in his kind of stereotypical luchador gimmick beat like Ray Phoenix
You know what I don't
in like
get
an 8-minute match.
Well, that's because Mysterio got hurt and Phoenix was a sub.
Yeah, he got hurt.
But
Yeah.
they jobbed Phoenix in his second match, which I think is going to hurt him a lot. But the other thing I don't get about that luchador gimmick, some people have defended it, and I'm kind of like, whatever. I feel like it's kind of out of touch. Like Triple H is 20 years out of touch. Like this would have worked 20 years ago, maybe. And I don't even think in the aughts it would have worked. I think people would have thought it was cringe then. But
why this?
They debuted it in Europe.
I'm sorry.
They debuted it in Europe, not here.
Brad, you know how it could work if we were like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when the actual like Latin talent was booked reasonably well by people like Paul Heyman or others, instead of all the Latin talent outside of maybe like Penta is just, and Dominic is not even like, they're just in like one faction or feuding with each other.
I actually saw a funny Reddit comment, which is a rarity these days. But one guy was like, "Oh yeah, my friend calls that the Mexicans interact with each other segment for SmackDown every week."
Yeah.
But yeah,
because they're not big. They're not big white dudes who are the
Yeah.
people that Triple H only likes to book.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well,
those Latin guys like fight each other.
The other funny thing.
Go ahead. It's best for business.
The other funny thing, and people, I hate the disingenuous people because people are trying to shit on Lucha Blog because he rightfully called him out because Triple H called it like authentic Lucha Libre, and Lucha Blog's like, no, like the whole concept of the company was built on the fact that Lucha Libre was broken, and it's like not authentic Lucha Libre, like it's very different. And if you've watched AAA for a long time, like they have gone through phases. Like they had their hardcore phase, like they are very heavy sports entertainment, which they've always been, but like they've always been their kind of like own thing. Like they've never like landed for me because I think they're a little too out there and their booking kind of sucks. Like I've always been a CMLL guy, but like they're not authentic Lucha Libre. It's kind of the point.
Yeah.
One thing I see happening with this, or I hope to happen, because they already announced like Jeremy Barash is like going to take effectively, he's taking over booking. Where like they're trying to phrase it, it's like, well, he'll be like almost like he's like a liaison. It's like, no, he's taking over the booking. I can't wait until if and when, I hope when, they just kick Conan's fucking ass to the curb, which I think is sad because he's just shit. He's always been shit. He's a shit booker. Having watched more of his matches on the show, I told you like the best match I probably have seen him in
Disco
is maybe against Disco Inferno, and that wasn't even like a 4 or 5 star match. That was like maybe I'll give you like 2.5.
Yeah, it was.
I don't even think the cage match he had with Perro Aguayo Senior was like good, and that was like probably his biggest hyped match.
Yeah,
that was kind of like the
He's
apex
shit.
of him. Is
he's always been shit.
Yeah.
Well,
how he ever got over to a certain level in like back in the day, I'll never understand because he was garbage.
And he apparently, and this is hearsay on my part, but he apparently said this will give lucha wrestlers an opportunity to learn to work the American style so they can get over in America. And I was like, did you just say the quiet part out loud?
No,
like that's their goal, or I don't. Just that was one of the dumbest things he could have said, and he just there it was. He just said it.
Well, I kind of think they should have bought it 5 years ago. I think is the problem because Conan has really tarnished it. Like, because there's a thing that happens with me that people, I'll joke about something for a long time. Like I've been joking for years that Conan just hires wife beaters and degenerates. And like when someone does something criminal, I'm like, oh, they're just showing Conan. Like ADR did something. I think he assaulted a woman. Like, oh, he's just showing Conan. He's not washed. And something happened, and Matt's like, oh my god, you've been joking about this for like 3 years, and it's really true, isn't it? And I'm like, yep, he just hires like he'll work. He just hires the dregs of society.
Worst.
Yep. And I think that's tarnished their brand to quite a large degree.
Yeah.
Because I mean, who even would be on the roster that you would care about? Because like, I mean, Psycho Clown's kind of not what he was star power wise.
No.
Look, I don't know enough about Lucha to have an opinion. I just know that your booker telling everybody, hey, now you get to learn to work like, you know, the Americans so you can do America stuff. It's like, first of all, I guess you didn't get the memo that the purchaser said, and then second of all, what are you doing? What are you doing? Wait, blowing your kazoo again, I guess. That's going to be the train leaving the station without you.
But yeah, we'll see how that develops. I don't know how that's going to go. They have a lot of work to do with AAA. And I don't know if they... One of the things I think WWE doesn't have a great attention span. And I think they're in for like a long road to getting that anywhere.
Yeah.
So, we are heading into the end of the first quarter of USWA shows. So this week we are bringing to you the March 28th, 1992 episode and the April 4th, 1992 episode. Now, just a bit of a spoiler, I love these two episodes. I thought this was like a great 2 hours of like wrestling. Like there was such good shit on this card. I can't do that to my voice.
I really enjoyed the first episode. I have a very legitimate gripe about the second episode, which I'll get into. But yes, these were two good episodes of wrestling content. Yeah, I highly enjoyed it. So
let's start off with the March 28th one. I've got my fancy notes here. Okay, so we start this episode off, and Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler. Jarrett's coming back from they injured him, so they defeat our favorite masked jobbers, the Invader and Shadow. They gave this some time, and I thought this was a fun little squash match because they gave this, I think, like maybe 4 minutes.
Yeah, it actually was like 4 or 5 minutes, and I actually wrote in my notes was like. They should have just like it's been like a 1 minute squash, but because given the level of star power that Jarrett and Lawler were, but I mean I guess I kind of get it. Like it wasn't like Invader or Shadow like took control at any point. They just got the shit beat out of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. Like Lawler and Jarrett clearly are like the stars, like
Yeah.
way up here than everyone else is down here. And I don't even say like. People aren't over. It's just like they clearly are like the stars.
Yeah.
Of the promotion. So it was cool to see them in a match. It's like a jobber match. Like you got to do that every now and again.
Yeah, because I don't think we'd seen them. We hadn't seen. I think we'd seen Lawler wrestle in February, and then they had that match where they were supposed to wrestle Chris Champion and No, Jeff Gaylord and the Sandman, and then they got attacked. So I think that's the last time we had like seen anything of them. I don't know if Jarrett had wrestled a singles, but yeah, so that was a fun little opener. So then we get a recap of Dirty White Boy, Eric Embry, because Dirty White Boy is back, and I think these shows instantly benefited from having him back on. So then we get dueling promos from them. It's their typical stuff. I did like the Dirty White Boy promo because, he's fired up about what happened to Dirty White Girl. Yeah. And, I have to say, like, I really like Dirty White Boy. And I said before the show, like, Eric Embry and Dirty White Boy on, like, my personal favorite workers list, like, they have just skyrocketed up my list.
They have been really welcome surprises that I've seen. Because I mean, I was aware of them. I had not really seen much of anything from Eric Embry. I hadn't really seen a lot of Dirty White Boy either. Obviously, like some of his awful WWF stuff, which
And
is like he was actually.
We did the chain match in the infamous Central Park thing, which we enjoyed, but that was, you know.
Yes, I've seen a limited amount of Smoky Mountain, so I understand. Like Smoky Mountain was probably his most like memorable run in terms of wrestling. But he was good in this, and Eric Embry is like has been to me like consistently entertaining throughout all of this. I loved the clips of the match that I actually like. Again, they show these clips of like the shows that obviously the TV show is working towards like promoting these matches.
It's
and then
I look at this as the TV as an infomercial, is how I would describe it to someone that doesn't understand this era of wrestling. I'm like, this is an infomercial for the live show.
It is. It's an infomercial for the live shows that they would have. I think like on Monday nights, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was Monday nights they had it.
Well, so they did. This is useless information, but so how they worked is they ran a circuit every night, and they ran the same card across the circuit. So, like
through the week,
Louisville got a show Tuesday, and it was essentially what the Mid-South Coliseum got. Like, that's why we haven't seen it on this because they seem to all have Memphis feed ones. But if you watch Memphis, some of them are only 60 minutes because that's a Louisville feed, because that's what they needed to get that footage. So, like, the Memphis show is 90 minutes, but if you get a tape from, like, Evansville, Indiana, or Louisville, it's an hour show.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they show clips, and they showed a clip here from Dirty White Boy against Eric Embry, and Dirty White Boy is just destroying Eric Embry. And I just wrote in my notes, it's like I actually really, really wished that I could have seen this match because it just looked good. And it really, like, again, like having seen more of Dirty White Boy and Eric Embry, like they were entertaining. And I felt like if I had seen some of this, like the matches they have with each other, it would have been good stuff. Now, is it like, you know, Kenny Omega versus Okada 5-star matchups? Like, not necessarily, but it's like, who cares? Like, some of the most entertaining matches you may ever see might be like a 3-star match that lasted like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's like so entertaining. Then you're like, damn, like that was so much fun. Like, I feel like some of this Dirty White Boy Eric Embry feud, like some of these matches, or some of like the Lawler Jarrett Moondog stuff that they show clips from. It's like, damn, I wish I would have seen this stuff. Like the actual full match. Like, I would love to see it because I'm sure it's like entertaining as hell.
The thing I really enjoyed about Dirty White Boy in this is he's the face in this feud. Is that Dirty White Boy cutting promos as a face? It reminds me of Eddie Kingston addressing his enemies kind of thing. It's like, I'm coming after you. I'm coming after you hard, and oh, there you are right now, and then he just dives on him. Like, dude, he is in a quest for vengeance and has zero chill, and shows it. He doesn't just say it. He shows it. And it's you know what? It's his speaking pattern reminds me of Kingston, but it's kind of like a .4 proto Stone Cold kind of thing of I'm right out here, I'm jumping on you and whipping your ass kind of thing.
He's like
Shad, that's.
I was gonna say he's just he's kind of just like a. Well, there's a couple things about him. So one, I think he's kind of like just a backwoods like shit kicker is kind of his gimmick. But what I like about him is when he turns heel, he don't have to do anything different. Cut the same promos. He can do everything the same. And there's this great Smoky Mountain segment where Dutch would do these like interviews with people. So he went to see where the Dirty White Boy lived, and he lives in like a rundown school bus in like a junkyard.
What were you gonna say, Matt?
I hadn't thought of like that analogy comparing him to like Eddie Kingston, and
Uh-huh.
I love Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston
Love
to me
Eddie.
is like on a different level.
Yeah.
And Dirty White Boy, no offense to Dirty White Boy, a different level in terms of promos and in-ring skills, whatever. But they are kind of similar. And one of the things that I think you could say about Eddie Kingston is that he's a very, and I think part of that is because like he interjects some of his real life struggles and his real life into his character, so he comes very authentic and real. And Dirty White Boy, he does come on like, I think his gimmick is that like, oh, he's just a backwoods like shit kicker, but it's very believable. And one of the things I liked about him as a face, which is kind of like Eddie Kingston-esque, just like it's unfortunate that it's become almost a trope, and maybe it's because like the WWE would really push this on that the dumb baby face. Oh, you're just gonna stand around and do something dumb while the heels like swarm over you and beat the shit out of you. No, like the thing about it is like I do like that where it's like he's getting out there, he's fired up, he's like talking shit, and it's like, oh, he's right over there, and he just like, stop the interview, I'm gonna go start beating the hell out of him. It's like, that's smart. It's like you're not just like waiting around, like looking up at the sky, like dumb. He's not that way. Like, and I like when baby faces are like, they're not dumb. They're just like, they're more, it's more authentic, it's more real to me. Eddie Kingston's that way. I feel like since talking about AEW, I feel like since, obviously he's been face, I feel someone like Swerve is kind of that way too, where it's like he's a little too like savvy about shit that he's gonna head stuff off if he sees it coming.
Yeah.
Like he's not just gonna wait around for like Ricochet to like, I mean Ricochet has attacked, maybe that's the best example. Like he will attack a heel if he can. Like, yeah, I like that. So I appreciated that about Tony Anthony.
You know what I liked about it reminds me when you talking about the dumb baby face. That's actually what I loved about Mid-South Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Is like Mid-South Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Yeah, he's kind of dumb and he doesn't think things through, but like he's like, okay, well I'm dumb, but I can just punch whatever I come across. Like I think being dumb in the context, he's kind of like a caveman, is I think how Matt described him at one point, and his outlook. And I think being dumb in that context is pretty good and different.
So go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, so but then we go to a match. So it's Tom Pritchard and Eric Embry, and Dirty White Boy runs in to continue the mayhem.
Yeah, I want to say one thing. Dirty White Boy's name is Tony Anthony. It cracks me the hell up that Dirty White Boy's name is Tony. And I can't remember who the joke was. There was a comedian that said growing up you always knew who the worst bullies were because their first and last names they were both first names. So you had Glenn Tom or Tom Glenn or something like, and here you have Tony. And it just fits beautifully. Like the whole thing comes together. It's like, of course, the Dirty White Boy's name is Tony Anthony. Is Tony. Okay. All right. Let's go with it. It just fits wonderfully.
Yeah, so he runs it on that match. We get more brawling. I actually like, this is kind of like the formula they do. They kind of do a recap. They do a promo with those guys. Then they do a match. It's kind of how this episode goes. So then we get my highlight of the week. So they do a recap of the Moondogs versus Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett. And I was howling during this because Richard Lee just has this big old brown grocery bag full of powder and he's just throwing it at everyone. And I'm like, he's just throwing the Tennessee booger sugar around, isn't he?
Yeah. I wrote in my notes, Richard Lee with his bag of cocaine. Like, again, I reiterate what I said a minute or two ago, that they show clips of shit that it's like, I would have seen every minute of this full match. And this lumberjack match just seemed like a wild ass brawl. And again, was this going to be like a 5-star classic? No. Did this seem like I would have had a lot of fun watching them just like throw shit at each other and beat each other over the head with like chairs and like boards and other shit? Yeah, I would have loved that. But yes, it was hilarious. Like, by the way, this isn't like, I don't have like a bag even, but this is even like
No,
a
it's
small,
literally
like,
it's like a
lunch
grocery
bag.
No, it's a grocery
Oh,
bag. It's
it's like grocery bag size, like the paper
Yeah.
bags you get. Like
He's
Trader
reaching
Joe's,
down
whatever.
into it and then hucking it.
It's almost
Yeah.
like a cement bag, but
Yeah.
it's like he's just like pulling out and he's just throwing it in like all the faces. There was, I think, with the lumberjacks or someone on the outside, he just goes and he like throws it in their face too. I think he throws it in the
poor
ref's
lumberjacks
face.
got beat up. Now I want to say,
Yeah.
there's one thing I really noticed here that I appreciated is so what's cool about this gimmick match, and we talked about it last time, is so they got all the jobbers that they've just destroyed, and they get to be lumberjacks with chairs. But what I really appreciated about the Moondogs as workers is they beat they roughed some of these guys up pretty good in the matches, but they took their fucking receipts like champs. Like
They
there's
did.
one where like
Oh yeah.
there's one where one of the Moondogs is up against the ring. You don't even see who does it, and the guy just smacks the crap out of him in the back with that chair. Like it's just like he got a good sound out of it. I appreciate the fact that they knew that they gave those guys their lumps. And they're like, okay, well, here, like,
I'm gonna give it back, brother.
yep,
Um,
shoot your shot, guys.
I was gonna say the other thing that's good to remember that I'm sure they were happy about is the fact that Rick Knox was not the referee for this
Oh, yeah.
match.
He would start beating everyone's ass.
Yeah.
But this was just bedlam. What do they use for powder? Is it just is it baby powder or is it like flour?
Probably baby powder,
Okay.
if I was gonna guess.
I mean, if I was gimicking this,
it flies in a really good way.
Oh, and it
You
sticks.
get a handful of baby
Okay.
powder and do this, and it flies and
And-
it's real visible.
And it would.
I would not want that in my eyes, though, Shad.
Well, I would like to think you know it's coming, so
Yeah, but-
shut your eyes.
I mean,
but
baby
then
powder.
again,
I don't know.
the guys that I read misted knew it was coming, and someone forgot to shut his eyes. So what's that say?
But I would think too the other good reason why I think baby powder, because if you're a little bit sweaty, it's gonna stick to you to really accentuate that you got.
I mean, I never worked or gimmicked this shit. I would think if I was taking it, I almost would be like, just throw flour at me. But I don't know if
if it's baby powder
baby
though,
powder might be better.
I mean, baby powder though, you're dealing with like infants, so I mean, it has to not be like too bad if it gets in your eye.
Let me tell you something. As someone who has small children, like I always thought, oh, baby powder, and then you read up a bunch of people like, oh, don't use baby powder. I'm like, what? It says for babies, like, oh no, it's baby powder has been determined to be real bad. And I'm like, what?
When
And
it
it's
had
like,
talc
don't do
in
baby
it.
powder. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, don't use it. Don't. And it's like, are you kidding me? So you're not supposed to use baby powder. So I would that in my mind. I'm like, I don't want baby powder. I don't want to inhale a bunch of baby powder or whatever. All I got like is
They tell you
don't wanna inhale a
everything
bunch
with
of
that though.
flour
They're
either.
like, don't lay your child 33 degrees on a full moon or they'll turn into a werewolf. It's like, shut the fuck up.
yeah.
So what
At
happened
the same
there is-
time, my kids will be eating something. It drops on the floor, just covered in dirt and everything. They would like eat it, and it's like, oh my god.
I tell people
And we all
that,
did it as
though.
kids too. So it's like,
Yeah.
I tell people
So-
that it's hilarious when people have like the first kid, like everything's like, oh, we have to be so careful. We have to be so careful. Then the second one's like, we didn't kill the first one. Like, just let it
You
go.
know- you know what? It's exactly true for my younger one. I mean, I'm like a nervous parent, so I'm
Yeah.
constantly like, don't do that, don't do it. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous with that. But yeah, it is much like that didn't kill the first one, so it's probably okay, right?
because you didn't
Yeah.
know.
Probably okay.
You didn't know if it was a bad thing to do with the first one, and then you've learned, so it's a little different. The thing with the baby powder, my understanding of it, so for what that's worth, is that it was because they had baby powder with talc or talcum in it, and that had super bad effects to the point where like the people that worked for them knew how bad it was, but for some reason couldn't say anything. So like, no, just use other stuff. I think most of it's made with
Like-
cornstarch now, and it's
Like
like
what?
okay, that's fine.
Like they almost like back in the '60s, where it's like smoke
Yeah.
cigarettes, it's good for you.
Hang on, I'm
Enjoy a
looking
nice
this up.
cigarette after dinner. Like
Yeah, talcum powder
cigarettes,
poisoning.
they keep you thin. Like
Yeah. Talcum powder poisoning. Let's see. What does it do? Uh, wow. Low blood pressure causes collapse, screws up your breathing problems, chest pain, particulate in the lungs, wheezing, um, blisters, blue skin because their lungs are messed up, like all that kind of good. And that was in some old school baby powder, but now they make it out of cornstarch. So, but what happens is people grow up with it. It's like it's a conversation I heard my dad have with my grandfather. Is my grandfather had a pacemaker in and would not use the microwave in the house until my father was like, "Dad, what's okay? Look, it's fine. It's not a big deal." And my grandfather said, for years and years, all I ever heard anybody would say is, if you have a pacemaker, you can't use a microwave or it'll kill you. And it's hard to just get over that. And it's like, okay, things. It's not the same anymore. That's not a thing anymore. And so the talc baby powder, yes, huge problem, but most of it's cornstarch now, not a huge problem. But what do people still? What do they retain? Baby powder bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I very much digress. Baby powder Jones.
There was something recently where they were saying something like that wasn't even true when I was a kid. Like they'd already fixed that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's see. We get the Lawler Jarrett promo, as we always do. They're gonna have a mystery partner next week. It's gonna be underwhelming. I'm just gonna tell you now.
I looked it up. It's underwhelming.
Well, yeah.
Well, we saw the second episode, but yeah.
Okay, so Lauren Davenport comes out, who's been kind of sitting at ringside, and she's going to introduce her man of the 90s. I actually think they picked the perfect guy for this. Tony Falk is her man of the 90s. This has got a little weird because she like kisses him and then smacks him, and he's like, "Oh, you like that, don't you?"
It was so weird. It became like some sort of weird sadomasochistic thing where she like, "Tony, will you be my man of the year?" And he's like, and then she like kisses him, and he's like all into it, and then she basically starts beating the hell out of him.
Yeah, and I have to say,
and then she like kisses him again, and then hits him again, and he's like, "Go in there and like beat up that jobber," which he does. Well, part of it's like, "I'll give you $1,000 like a day or a week or something like that." My wife was watching a little bit of this segment. Yeah. She doesn't like wrestling. I've mentioned that at the show many times. She doesn't watch wrestling, but sometimes when I'm watching wrestling, or I can drag her to a wrestling show, like she'll do it for me because she loves me. But she was watching this and she's like, "That's really like sexist. Like, what is going on? Like, is that inappropriate content?" I'm like,
yeah.
Well, it was a different era. It's 92. Number one. And two, it's not. Yeah. It's like heels. They're not presented as like this is a good thing.
Yeah.
No.
But it was weird.
This is weird and out of place and uncomfortable. And by the way, she was not working those slabs. She knocked the shit out of it.
I have to say though, the first time she did a promo, I didn't care for it all. But like when these two episodes, I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. But like whatever she's doing, like as a heel, is working for me. Like her character is working to a degree. Like
she's mercurial and kind of weird.
And her promos, like it's weird because her promos aren't like amazing, but it's just like I don't know what it was that just like I was like, oh, this is weird. Then she came out the next week, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm kind of actually like interested in the angle now. And I thought like
it's a little bit like the Nurse Cratchit thing, where it's like this is bad, and then the more it continues, it's like you actually might be somewhat improving because it's not as bad as it was. It kind of works in a weird way.
Because I think it works because like the second episode like fleshes it out more, and like she's really just kind of emasculating him, and like you're like it is a sadomasochistic thing, and she's just kind of like grinding him down. Like there's a very like there's like a very psychological aspect to it, like whereas the Nurse Cratchit thing just sucked, but like she has like actual charisma, unlike Nurse Cratchit.
Yeah,
I think, but like
I don't know anything about her. Like they on the second one, they advertised her for a wrestling match, so I assume she
wins the women's title like a metric crap ton of times.
Oh, I mean, no offense, but outside of Miss Texas, maybe like Dirty White Girl, but I don't really know that any of the people they had like for the women's title were like workers, like good
Yeah.
workers. Like they,
Yeah.
this was as amateur as you could possibly get. I mean, I've been to indie shows in the last 2-3 years watching women that are not remotely ready for prime time, and they were like 100 steps above like a lot of the women we've seen outside of like, again, like Dirty White Girl and obviously like Jackie, Miss Texas. Like she is so far on a different level. It's not even funny, but yeah, like it's. I'm sure you could give training to any random woman you see at the gym. But I'll say that, I'll preface that by saying like they at least have some perhaps modicum of athletic talent. Like you could probably give them like 1 week's training, and some of them might be better than some of these people.
I will say I am happy Tony Falk found love again after his fiance left him or went back.
What was
to
up
the
with that? Like I wrote in my notes, it's like what happened to his fiance? Like that just disappeared. Like I don't even remember. I think that was ever explained. Like she's gone.
I think she was just. I honestly think she was just some stripper they hired from a local club, because remember they did that.
I just thought it was hilarious that when she got debuted, it's like he started the promo off My Girlfriend, and then like Tony Falk like sensed that people were like giving her the eye or something like that, and literally within like 2 minutes of a promo, he's like, "Yeah, my fiance." It's like, whoa, you like, bro, you elevated her like way up here.
Real quick.
Remember they did that. They're doing that battle royal, and they were doing the promotional pictures, and it was literally like her stripper picture because the stripper pole was like in the picture.
Yeah. Just off to the side.
Yeah.
It's like, gosh, they had Photoshop to crop it out.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
But I don't know why this angle just. It got buy-in for me, and I was kind of surprised because it was weird. But so I love this next segment. So the Moondogs come out for their match, and Eddie Marlin comes out and he says, like, look, like your opponents this week, they called me and they said, no, we ain't doing it. And what I like there is like Richard Lee's like, who are they? He's like, I don't want to give it to you. He's like, no, he's like, I want to sign them because like those are the first 2 people I've seen that actually have some intelligence to them. Which I thought was really good. But I love the fact that like the Moondogs are such terrors, like their opponents just quit. And then Richard Lee's like all pissed off. He's like, look, he's like, I got them all worked up, and like, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't get them just to come down. Like, they need someone to like fight now. And Eddie Martin's like, get him out of there. So they leave. And this is going to be a recurring theme throughout the rest of the show. So we get a recap of the Brian Christopher, Jimmy Valiant match. So Christopher wins the Southern title. So he has the Southern and the Texas title. The Texas title, I'm pretty sure, is going to go away. But so then Jimmy Valiant comes out, and he cuts what I think is just a great promo. Because he's like, I've never met a young person I don't like. He's like, Brian Christopher, like, I don't like you. And he's like, and he's kind of like, kid, like, you're messing with the dragon. And I love, he just starts pulling chains out of everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Oh, let me tell you something, boy. And like, he pulls like 8 chains out of different body parts. Like, let me pull up this sock. Let me pull up this sock. I got a chain in this pocket. I got a chain in this. And they're not like he does, I'm in a chain gang. Like
they're little dog collar chains.
He did pull like a chain.
Well, yeah, but they're like this. This is the chain that I actually wear around my neck. It's like little chains, and it's
But I was I'm not like I like Memphis Jimmy Valiant better, but I was like, God damn, he could have come in and just dogged this, but he is like putting in effort. Because I thought this was a great promo. I was like, oh, I kind of want to see him beat Christopher's ass now.
It was a good promo, and the thing that I think really carried it over for me is the fact that he did not downplay Brian Christopher at all for it. He said, I don't like you. I don't like what you do, and then started making threats. He did not cut him down, cut him off the knees, any of that crap. So I really appreciated that.
Looky here, Dave Brown. He pulls one out of his boot. I thought all the chains are hilarious. I was like, oh, Shad's gonna love this.
Jimmy Valiant was probably like 52, 53 at this point.
Oh, he had to be old as dirt by this point.
He was pretty old. Although, again, I have shared before, I do not like Jimmy Valiant. I hated him in Jim Crockett Promotions with his 100-year. You talk about the 100-year war in Britain, like this,
Yeah.
his 100-year war against the Paul Jones army. But you've tried to, I don't know if like win me over to Jimmy Valiant, but you have said, and I'm seeing it, that Memphis Jimmy Valiant is a different animal, and he kind of is. Like, he's a little more serious. I mean, he's still like the, shucking and jiving, like whatever, but there's a little more intensity to him.
Yeah.
And he's a little more of like a serious worker in this. So
He's like he's kind of like I don't know how to describe him in this. He's kind of like that old man, that's kind of turned into a hippie. He's like, oh, like it's all rainbows and peace, brother. But like, if you cross me, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like what he is. It's like he's like, oh yeah, it's all love and things, but don't cross that line because I will cut you. Is kind of like what his character is, and it really works. And I think he's a really good counterbalance to Brian Christopher, because I have to say, since like the last couple weeks, Brian Christopher is like a consistent highlight of these shows for me.
So, well, I want to comment on that, but going back to Jimmy Valiant, like when they first were like starting this feud. So, and this is like a recent thing. So, like last like 2-3 weeks, I kind of was like, he cut that promo where he's basically like, "Oh, I like dap at half the people in this like building," and I'm like, I don't think that's a smart idea. Just highlighting how old you are, like like. But now, like when you get more of this feud in the context of this feud with Brian Christopher, who is legit, like, was probably like 30 years younger than Jimmy Valiant, like no joke. Because Brian Christopher couldn't have been older than like early 20s, and Jimmy Valiant again was like probably 52, 53 at this point. I actually think that the juxtaposition actually worked. It did work. Like, it highlighted it. And the end result, no offense, Jimmy Valiant, it needed to be like Brian Christopher going over in the feud, because I mean, you don't want to like cut off your young upstart heel to a guy who's like 30 years older than him. But I agree with Brian Christopher. I think he's become, from like we saw him in January to now, like so literally in like 3 month span, I feel he's become more polished, and I think he's, to me, become less like overtly annoying. Because when he first started and turned heel and he was doing that little laugh, I'm like, I'm not a violent person, but every time you bust out that laugh, I would like to see you smashed in the face with a brick, because it is the most annoying thing I perhaps ever heard. You just seem like the biggest chicken shit asshole heel. But he's dialed it down a little bit, but he's still keeping that whole like, arrogant asshole. I think I'm better than everyone else, but I'm also like a piece of shit. I'll cheat to win.
Well, and there's a way.
Like, he cheated to win to be Cat Garrett in this.
Well,
just not because he needed to, because he could. And it's like, that's pretty good healing.
And there's a way, like, it's hard to describe. There's a way he like does his accent with like the inflection. Like, there's kind of like a whiny drawl he like throws into like his Tennessee accent that just makes him so unlikable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you kind of have to hear it to understand, but it's like, oh, you're like throwing some stuff in there with your voice. So
I'm sorry to cut you off, but another observation, because it came across my mind, and I had read back in the day, like in the Aftermags, that obviously Brian Christopher was a big thing in the USWA, and obviously eventually he would come to the WWF at the time. But I'd heard it was like a big deal, and he eventually makes it to like a main heel. But seeing some of this and seeing like his potential, like it does kind of it saddens me a little bit that ultimately what he's going to be remembered for is just his Grandmaster Sexay, and it's like that was really the Attitude Era sucked. Let's be real. Outside of maybe like the main event scene with Austin and the whole Vince McMahon storyline, like the Attitude Era largely sucked.
And the worst
and
part
that
is
edged
like
a little bit out of the that edged a little bit out of the Attitude Era into like a little bit beyond that. But and he obviously had a very unfortunate end. But it's like
and
really
he's the
like
hanger
was,
on of that too, because like you had Rikishi with the dancing and the worm, and like he really didn't have like
no, but he was capable of so much more, and for that to be like you're just like the dancing guy, and it's like that kind of sucks, but that's how it is sometimes.
One thing.
Oh, go ahead, Chad.
I really enjoyed seeing out of Christopher is, he's this young guy, he's getting a push. This doesn't go to his head at all in the ring. This is a young guy who's getting a push that is willing to be a chicken shit heel and show his ass and get beat up a lot. And first of all, he was really good at it because he sold really well, and I don't just mean the moves. Someone does something, back elbow, back body drop, and he rolls out of the ring, and he's holding his back, and he looks like he's not wanting to cry, and he's like, leave me alone, you shut up, his whole presentation was showing the vulnerability on top of being hated to make you hate him even more, because, he was all talk. And then he would squeak out wins here and there, and I just really appreciated the fact that he does all this. He's making the other guy look good, putting over their stuff, even if he is winning in the end. Like, I really appreciate that, especially out of someone as young as he was.
And I also like, they did it because Lawler didn't want to seem old, but he's one of the rare second gen guys that's not like cosplaying his dad.
Yeah.
I was going to say, to go with what you were saying too, I just like also seeing a guy being given the brass ring and just running with it, like actually rising to the occasion. So the main event is him versus Kat Garrett, which I think out of their failed like guys they were testing out, Kat Garrett's been the best one. Like I don't think he was amazing, but I'm like, he's okay. He's capable.
I had to look him up on like.
I don't think
look him up right now.
He doesn't have a cage match.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Like, 'cause he did seem like he maybe had some talent. Like, obviously, he never amounted to anything in the business. But if it was like the modern era, like he maybe would have been like, maybe he would have made an indie name for himself.
Yeah. But what I liked, there's a little detail in this I like. So the Moondogs come back out because they're still thirsting for blood, and I like that. Christopher and Garrett like stop wrestling and like face them down. And if like they had charged the ring, Christopher would have bailed out and let Garrett get beat up. But I like that they were just like, okay, well we need to cooperate for a second here because we are under threat by very dangerous people.
Yeah.
I thought this was a solid match. Christopher wins, and then the Moondogs come out and beat up poor Kat Garrett because of course they will, which leads to Lawler and Jarrett running out, and we get, I think, the first appearance on these Memphis shows of Fire Extinguisher. And I was curious, I don't know if you would know, Shad. Do you know what's in like those gimmicked fire extinguishers?
It's just regular fire extinguishers.
Oh, I thought you weren't supposed to like spray people with.
So the fire extinguishers of that time, as I remember correctly, it's been a while since I was fire extinguisher certified. But what that was concentrated carbon dioxide with some powder mixed in to give it a little more mass to smother flames with. So it's not great, but it's, at least at the time, I don't think it was toxic.
Because I just know...
I could be wrong about that, but that's what I remember from my training.
I just know when I was in chemistry class, they were like, if someone catches on fire, do not use the fire extinguisher, get the blankets, because the fire extinguisher is not good to use for people. So I just wondered.
Well, and it might also be that in those particular cases, as it's trying to put stuff out, it might push it around or something. I don't know. Yeah. But like when
they don't directly spray
example,
people either. So I think
when I was in high school, the football team, comes through because we were the Bulldogs. Whenever they'd come out of the doghouse, they were spraying fire extinguishers up and down for them to run through, and I didn't see anybody, collapse over gagging or anything like that.
So it might be not direct contact that they're making.
You know what? I do happen to have the internet right here. What is in red fire extinguishers? So apparently there's a decent amount of it, like water based, with some stuff mixed into it, I guess.
Maybe if you maybe if it has a second, the chemical reactions.
Oh, okay. Check this out. Here's what it is there are the labels that go on them. So if it's got a red label on it, it is water of one form or another. If it's got a yellow label, it's a wet chemical spray, which might have been what you all had.
Oh yeah, being in a chem lab, we probably had the chemical.
If it is a black label, it's a carbon dioxide extinguisher. If it is a blue label, it is ABC dry powder. And then if it is like a white label, then it is foam.
Okay. You reminded me of a story from my shipping days. Like, remember they brought this container of chemicals out once. The guy's like, okay, just letting you know, if one of these breaks, run like hell because it's really bad. I'm like, okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably the wet chemical extinguishers because you're supposed to use them on things like oil fires and stuff.
And for a chem lab, they would have those. Then we get a Lawler promo to finish the show off. So I thought this was a really great episode of TV. I highly enjoyed it.
This was really good. I like this more than the second one, which we'll get to in a second. But I really thought this was really strong.
I thought
it was structured really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they really hammered that. They'd really hammer an angle for a little bit. I thought the second half of the second episode is really strong, but like it's rough for a bit to start. But okay, so let's get to the next episode. So we get the Moondogs versus Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Lawler, and their partner Leatherface. Yeah.
Which we've actually seen on USWA TV before. And he's basically a jobber, but you said this is probably like a different guy under the mask.
And
I would say this is a disappointment because in the previous episode, Lawler really hyped it up. It's like, oh, you're not gonna like who we have, like as our tag team partner. And it's like, oh, who are they gonna get? Like they've had Kamala before, like
Austin Idol, Jimmy Valiant,
like even Jimmy Valiant. Yeah, it's like, oh, who's gonna be in as the Leatherface? And it's like, what? Like I don't even think this is like Wing Leatherface from like the mid '90s, who actually was like at least a decent like garbage wrestler.
Yeah.
Like
so,
I took it as getting Leatherface because they've been running around with those boards and everything.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have him saw through them or something.
Oh, I see. Shad's already pouring one out for. So we have to have a short funeral here. I see Shad's pouring one out for Moondog Spike, who is dead. DED.
No,
dead.
he wasn't dead. He wasn't dead. His brain was all swelled up.
Yeah.
You can't do that to my dogs. He's in the hospital. His brain's swole up.
Yeah, so we're gonna.
I need a suspension for them because his brain's swole up.
That was that. I'm sorry. I love Richard Lee. Like he really. But so
Richard Lee was great.
We will get to his.
We're gonna get to Richard Lee in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we start off. So the Star Riders defeat Ricky Hayes and Don Kelly. They're kind of trying to do like the Nightmares thing where they have the stars and the face paint. But I had a big problem with this is when you're trying to bring guys in to be big power wrestlers, don't put them against a jobber that is bigger than one of them. Because Don Kelly was bigger than one of the Star Riders. By a lot. And the Star Riders were not good.
They were not good, but also, if you're gonna bring two dudes in and you want them to be, for lack of a better way to put it, you're like road warriors. You know, you want them to be like your big power team or whatever. Like, you're right. Like, have them be bigger than who they face, but also like, why are you booking them in effectively a long ass like jobber match?
Yeah.
And I get that it's like long is relative. Like long could be like
this
5
felt
minutes.
like it was forever.
It felt like 10 minutes long. But it's like, no, like maybe have them go out there and it's like a one. I get that if you want to do a job where it's like, oh, we'll just have them beat the guys up for like 5 minutes. Like, don't do that. Maybe just have them go out there and beat the shit out of people.
You do that
and win in like 1 minute.
You do that if they're like if it's like Dean Malenko and you're introducing him, that's fine because he has like stuff he can fill that out with. But these guys were stiffs, and I laughed because their finisher was supposed to be like probably the Doomsday Device or something, and the one guy just falls on his face. So then they decide, So then they decide the other guy's going to try and do it, and he just kind of flops onto the ground and misses the guy and like awkwardly pins him. And I laughed that they both fucked up the top rope move.
Yeah.
It was not good.
So I have a story.
Okay.
They're not good. I have a story about the Star Riders.
Oh no.
Because I looked them up. I'm
no.
like, who the hell were these guys? Because they were presented in a way it's like, and now we've seen meat and potatoes. Like, we saw it's like, okay, the theme we're kind of getting, which we've now at this point we've only seen roughly like 3 weeks and 3 months in a week of USWA TV.
Yeah.
But I mean, weekly episodic TV, like three months is like 12 weeks, 13 weeks of TV.
We've seen
like
14 episodes.
Okay. Yeah. Like that's a good amount. That's pretty decent. Like you've seen, and I will say as sidebar, like this seems vastly different from when it started. Like you had, Tennessee Lee back in the day, like the first episode or two, and then now we're like so far away from that. But
it's a weekly territory, so they have to keep it moving because they got to get you into the same building every week.
Yeah, exactly. But we see them try and like maybe try some stuff like Dr. Death. Like Dr. Death is still around, but he hasn't been on these 2 episodes. Like, but you had Meat and Potatoes debut, and then you never saw like one of them.
Yeah, the fat one of them came back as Fat Boy.
Yeah, and he had what I felt we talked about last show. It's like, there's actually he did a pretty good showing.
Yeah,
like in his tag match.
Yeah,
but you're presenting the way you're presenting the Star Riders, like you kind of want them to be a thing. Like you're testing them out to be a thing.
Yeah.
But apparently they did this taping and maybe like another one or another show, but they weren't around for long, and I'll explain why. This is the story. If it's true or not, I don't know. I found it on a website.
Ooh.
It's from What Culture, so it's like, well, I guess you could take it with a grain of salt. Maybe it's true, but the title of it is like it was from a listicle, but it's basically the 20 most infamous real life wrestling fights of all time, and one of them was Star Riders versus the Moondogs, 1992. In the spring of 1992, which this would be edging into the spring.
Yeah.
A new team came into the USWA called the Star Riders, Rock and Blade, which is like, come on. Like that, you're even like, you're almost going to like, Dingo Warrior, like whatever Sting was like back in the day. Like, come on, Rock and Blade.
Wasn't Warrior or Sting Rock when they started?
One of them was Flash, I think.
Oh, that's who they were cosplaying as. They were cosplaying as the Blade Runners.
Yeah.
That's why they look so familiar. I should have asked. You should have told me about this. I could have asked Travis Heckle if it was real.
Oh.
Oh, no, you can't after the fact, but okay. One of the riders, Charlie Rock Yeager, was shocked to see an enhancement guy come back to the locker room after a match with the Moondogs with his back covered in blood. He asked him, "Man, what the hell happened to you?" when the job guy told him Charlie it came from working with the notoriously rough Moondogs, he couldn't believe it. Fuck, he explained. You did that for $20? The next night, there was a redneck tough man tag team challenge, which they actually hyped in this. So this is like, this kind of leads like maybe this is true.
Yeah.
The Tough Man Tag Team Challenge, which was an 8-team battle royal with a new team entering the fray every couple of minutes. There were wooden boards, trash cans, and all kinds of other assorted weaponry in the ring.
Yep.
The Star Riders entered the match, and while Charlie was looking around for someone to pair off with, Moondog Spot clocked him in the back of his head with a chair, giving him a concussion. Charlie was spitting, cussing, and kicking the furniture when he got back to the dressing room, vowing to get even with Spot. The next day, Jaeger taped up his workout glove and put a leather ring glove over it, so his fist was as hard as a rock. When he made it to the ring and noticed Spot by himself, he dragged him into the corner by his hair and then nailed him with a hard punch to the face. Spot was dazed and dropped to one knee, while Jaeger continued to unload on him full force with uppercuts. Jerry Lawler was in another corner with Spot's tag team partner, Spike, and told him, "Hey, that guy is shooting on your partner. You better go help him." Jaeger saw him coming and jumped out of the ring, making a beeline for the dressing room. He and his partner grabbed their bags and ran out of the building. In the dressing room, Spot was walking around with a bloody face in a bad way. Eventually, he had to have eye surgery.
Ooh.
Spike was waving his gun around, threatening to kill the Star Riders if he got his hands on them. The cops were called, and Highway Patrol pulled over the Star Riders on their way out of Tennessee, advised them to leave the state and never come back, or else they could not be responsible for what happened to them.
Well, we know there's inaccuracies to that article.
What's up?
Because it wouldn't have been Spike. They wrote Spike off. It would have been Cujo.
Well, people not intimately familiar with the Moondogs, I can forgive the oversight on that one.
We'll have to see if we could probably verify if this is true to the next couple episodes or not.
Okay.
Because
It'd be interesting to find out.
Because if Latham misses a show or his face is beat up, we'll know what happened. Because I don't think his face would heal up.
Yeah.
That quick.
Potentially, but this article is alleging that at the tag team gauntlet that they do advertise on this show.
Wait, hold on, I got it written here. The Red Man Tough Enough Rumble.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sponsored by chewing tobacco.
Oh, what's sponsored by chewing? That is chewing tobacco. Sorry, I'm not.
Tobacco.
I'm too.
You're not hillbilly enough, Brad.
Yeah.
Have you ever done like chewing tobacco?
No,
I used to smoke back in the day. I never smoked like that long, but I smoked back in the day.
I worked with guys that did it, and it was just a disgusting vice.
A few years ago, my buddy, I have a good buddy that got married, and part of his like bachelor celebration before he got married was like we went on like a fishing boat. It's like the only time I've ever actually fished. Did a pretty good job. I actually caught a big fish, like this big. But because we were actually went off like the coast, it wasn't like we went in a little pond. It was like
you went deep sea fishing.
Yeah, well, not quite deep sea, but I mean, yeah, we went.
You went bay fishing. Okay.
Yeah. And one of the dudes is like, "Oh, you want to like do some like chewing tobacco?" And I'm like, whatever. I never did it before. I didn't like it. Like, I don't like the feeling of like it makes you like your gums numb, whatever, like that. Yeah. Ironically, though, I have another good buddy who, like, the last few weeks, months, maybe a couple months ago, like he was into like he's into guys Zyn, like the pouchless, the pouch tobacco.
That is.
He gave me one of those things, and I like put it, and it made. I don't smoke anymore, so maybe that was it. But it like I'm like, this is like, it made me like fucking sick. I'm like, this is too much goddamn tobacco in my system all at once.
Yeah.
One is like, don't do that shit, guys. It's not good for you.
And if you get the cancer from it, like they have to take your jaw off or like take huge chunks of it out. So,
yeah, I'm glad I never got into that.
So, I know a lot of.
I smoked relatively for a brief amount of time compared to most people, and I wasn't even like I'm a 10-pack a day smoker. I was like maybe like
Well, I
A
know.
quarter of a pack a day.
I know. I knew a bunch of guys that started doing it. Remember when like Obama had jacked all those cigarette prices up on like all those tobacco
Yeah.
products, and they didn't do chewing tobacco, so all these guys like switched to chewing tobacco. I'm like, oh great, so they're gonna get jaw cancer instead of lung cancer. Like, great job, government. Way to think that one through. Okay, so funnily enough, we get the Richard Lee promo about his swollen-brained Spike confronts Jarrett and
Yeah.
Lawler. This turns into a brawl. Richard Lee pretty much gets his clothes torn off, which I do have a complaint about Richard Lee here. You should have sold it and got boxers with hearts on them, because it would have been funny. But this is absolute mayhem.
It was absolute mayhem, and I love this segment because it really made me have such a deep appreciation for Richard Lee, because Richard Lee just got it
Yeah.
in the business. He just got it. Like, he knew what his role was. He knew, like, as a manager, and especially as a heel manager, his role was just to take the piss. Like, he went out there and got beat up, got like his clothes ripped off. He's like out there in his boxer shorts, just like a clown, like a
Yeah.
fucking goofball.
Yeah.
And he did it, and he's still like ranting and raving in a promo, and it's like, you look like an absolute clown. People are like laughing at you, but he knew his job. He did his job. Like, he still like worked through it, and it's like, damn, that's a good manager. Like, he was good. He was so good, and we can watch this and appreciate it, but like, more people like should know about Richard Lee and USWA, just in wrestling in general. And it's like, it's a shame actually watching this now, it's like, why didn't this guy have more of like an actual career? Like, he was good in this. I'm not saying, I don't want to diminish that, but it's like, this is a guy that even like the weirdness that happened literally like 3 years later, like Hulk Hogan came into like, or even 2 years later, like Hulk Hogan came into like the WCW, and it kind of changed WCW. But it's like, Richard Lee is still a guy, like, he could have had a place in like WCW, a more southern style promotion, and done pretty well, at least in like the mid card, the lower card. Like, he could have got dudes over. He could have got over. Like, he should have got a bigger platform than he did.
He should have.
I think that people may have looked at him and said it's too regional, which I don't agree with, but that would be my guess, is they would look at him and go, it's too regional.
I hate that though, because like, I actually think on a broader stage, like, the accent would have made him, if like someone would have.
It would have made him more unique.
Yeah. And more obnoxious.
The dude cut impassioned promos in a way
My
that
dogs.
You gonna get out here and hurt my dogs? We ain't never tried to injure nobody, and you're out here trying to hurt my dogs, and now one of them's laid up in the hospital with a brain swollen. I can't get him to walk across the room. It's like, are you a physical therapist, dude? What are you doing, man?
Can I ask you a question, Chad, just based on this segment? So, other than Alex Angel, how many guys did you work with? Oh, and probably Larry D's manager. How many guys would have been willing to, in a fight like this, get their clothes like ripped off to show ass as a heel?
Not a lot.
I'm guessing Alex would have been down in the right situation.
It depends. I'll say this: there's not a lot. And when I was managing, I probably wouldn't have been up for it either. But that's because my role as a manager was supposed to be, I was supposed to be the tough guy bodyguard as opposed to the chicken shit talker. But him being willing to do that speaks volumes.
Yeah,
it's just, there's not a lot of guys I remember that would have been.
I do laugh because later he comes out and he just has jeans on and his ties still.
Yeah,
because like, he just gets it.
he got it. That's why he should have been a bigger deal, because it's like, you hear people talk about like, oh, Kurt Angle or so and so. It's like, oh, they just got wrestling, and it's like, for somebody, think about it differently. You hear about guys like Kurt Angle or guys who are wrestlers. It's like getting the business. It's like, what about people like Richard Lee? Like Richard Lee was a guy who was a manager and everything. He got the business. And was not in the business that much. Like I think, didn't we track down like he maybe did some late '80s stuff?
I don't know. I know Travis Heckle and Peter F, who's from PWO, explained like I think he was a DJ or something.
Yeah, he was a guy who's like this wasn't his day job, obviously. Like
Yeah.
But for a guy who just got into it because he loved wrestling or just thought it was amusing, whatever, like he got it. And like we've done episodes of the show, if you want to look into our back catalog, where I kind of did the concept of like, what if we take people from like back in the day and move them into the modern era, or vice versa, a guy in the modern era, would they have worked like back in the day? Would a guy from like now worked in like the 80s? Like take someone like Richard Lee, you translated him like 30 years in the future, like into the modern era or close to the modern era, like he would have massively probably gotten over because the guy's instincts were good. He was a good talker. Like he would have probably like been a really entertaining, really popular guy on the indie scene and would have gotten offered a contract with WWE or AEW probably because like he was talented.
And when
like,
you
really
talk about,
I agree with that.
when you talk about getting it too, I think people lose the forest for the trees on that because a lot of times they'll say like, "Oh, this guy gets it," and you watch him. Like Matt Riddle, they did that with, and I'm like, "Well, he does the moves pretty, but like he doesn't get the broad like." There's getting like the moves and the working aspect, but then there's like the broader, like there's the big picture aspect of wrestling. That's where he really gets it. Like he gets the big picture. He understands like, okay, like I like people want to see me get my ass beat and I can't have an ego about it because I'll disappoint. Like he gets like he understands like his role, like how it works, like the psychology of it. And I think that's the part I think that's the hardest part to get. Like I think the wrestling thing, like, you know, if you don't have the physical ability, that's, you know, you don't have the physical ability. But I think where a lot of people, especially like nowadays, don't get it is like the big like picture of it.
Yeah,
It's the idea of what is your overall story and what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
So in this match or in this segment, what is the part of the story you're telling? Okay, make that happen. As opposed to being like, well, we're going to go have a match. It's like, no, what's supposed to happen? Is this a match where something in particular is supposed to happen? What is it? What are we trying to sell? What are we trying to do?
Like, okay, you have the top rope fuckinator. So what are we going to do around the top rope fuckinator? Because that's 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Or unless it's unless it's TNA and then you just don't catch the guy.
Ugh.
Brian Alvarez talked about that, and he made actually kind of an interesting observation. I kind of wonder. So he's talked about like those incidences where they don't catch the guy, and he mentioned that he thinks the problem is a lot of those ones where they don't catch them, they're doing like 450s, and like there's a huge difference trying to catch a guy that's flipping like that's spinning, like you can't really catch that versus the guys that come down flat. That's like easier to catch. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting thought exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand that in the sense that it's some guys like just twirling versus a guy just like, let me just do a moonsault where it's like I'm coming at you and it's like, you know, I'm like coming at you from one direction, or you do like I'm doing like a cannonball where it's like, oh, okay, you're coming on the back. Where if you're just flipping, it's like, I don't know if I'm gonna like be able to catch you, and I'm catching like.
Or are you gonna knee me in the fucking face and break my
exactly? It's like I don't know if you're like I'm gonna get your fucking knee in my face, or I'm gonna get like, just get you like from the back where it's like, oh, okay, I can just like.
So
you can hit my land on my shoulder. I could just like grab you.
Yeah, I've got two things about that. Is I think it's important to clarify that the rotation or the flip or whatever is the fact that we've got someone who's going end over end, so it's harder to judge where they're going to be and what they're going to hit with and stuff. Because go back to Hector Garza, he would do a corkscrew plancha, but what did that really do? Is he would just kind of jump at you and then spin at the air. So it was real easy to predict where he was going where his body was going to be to get in the way. The other thing is, I went back and watched that clip, and I did notice there was one person who really did. He tried, misjudged, but tried to help kind of make a catch, and it did surprise me that it was AJ Francis who was honest to God trying to do something to catch him.
I think he on Twitter he actually like commented, and he's like, he actually was throwing shade at GCW, where he's like, yeah, look at the people who like trying to catch him, and look at the people who like ran out of the way. And I feel like that was shade against Matt Cardona, because Matt Cardona like couldn't be bothered. Meanwhile, one of the people who like was very vocal about how whatever is not like wasn't really our problem. It's not, but it's like you should have was Moose. And it's like, of course, the people who were like basically like, like throwing up, like shrugging your shoulders, like not a big deal, guys, was Moose and like Jordan Grace. It's like, okay, two of the biggest like idiots out of TNA. Aren't gonna be that way. But AJ Francis, a guy who's otherwise kind of like a clown, is like, no, I tried to like save this guy's life. And it has a point.
He hit the worst. I also think too, not to defend the people that missed him because they missed him, but he also landed in like the worst part of the crowd because he cut them off like 75% and like 25%. So there were only a couple guys on one side, and then like a bunch of them were boxed out by the rest of the crowd. So he literally landed like the worst spot he could have landed.
One other thing to kind of throw in there is it's hard to say because we're not going to know. But it might have been like the very first match I was in where someone was doing a big dive to the outside thing. He was going up for it. And as I saw him coming, and everybody's kind of squaring up to be ready for it. And I realized I'm in a bad spot, and if we do this here, I'm in a real bad place, and I'm probably going to have something bad happen to my leg. So I pieced out of the way. I can't, and it was not, I didn't want to catch you. It was, because I even went to him after the match. I'm like, look, dude, I didn't bail out of the way because I didn't want to catch you. I bailed out of the way because where I was afraid what was going to happen. And everybody else got him, and it was fine. But it was I don't know what it looked like from where any of them were standing. So I don't want to throw shade at anyone in particular. Yeah. Maybe I'm being too forgiving on it.
Some of them physically couldn't get to him the way he landed there.
Yeah.
But who was it? There was someone that like missed a dive real bad. Like Brock Lesnar was like running to try and like save them.
Mm-hmm. It's honestly, if you're going to do stuff like that, I think that it's safest to say, just do a crossbody. Just do a crossbody so that it's easy to see where you're going and it's easier to catch you. Just do that. It's gonna benefit everybody.
That reminds
me. Do it that way.
That reminds me. When AJ and Sting did one of their big matches, AJ's like, come on, man, you do like Sting doing like the dive over the rope, and Sting's like, you sure you can catch me? And AJ's like, I promise I will catch you. Like, I want you to do the spot, and he caught him. But I thought it was an interesting conversation where Sting's like, I'm kind of big. He's like, I'll get you.
Yeah, to have someone staking their claim on something like that does matter.
So let's see here. Okay, so we get our next bit of Lauren Davenport. So Tony Falk lost, I guess, at the Mid-South Coliseum, so he's getting emasculated. I think he gets slapped a little more here. And then she's like, you need to, I can't do a redneck voice. But she's like, you need to beat this jobber up. And so he beats TD Steele, and then she's like, okay, you haven't beat him up enough. You need to get back in there and beat him up more. And then Tony Falk's kind of like, oh, I don't know. Okay, well, I'll go beat him up.
And then didn't she slap him again?
Yeah. But like I said, I thought this segment really worked in conjunction with the last one, because I was like, oh, this is This is like slightly different, like, but I'm kind of like in on this angle for the bit they're gonna do it.
Okay.
And I really like the idea of Tony Falk as like the man of the '90s because he is so not the man of the '90s.
It's like it's an angle where he's being hoodwinked into being controlled by her, I guess.
Yeah. Because he's kind of like a bit of a spineless worm, I'd say, and she picked up on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about this earlier. So we get the hype up for the Red Man Tough Enough Rumble. So they're gonna draw the teams randomly. So Corey Macklin they couldn't even like spring for like the manila envelope to do this out of. They had to get like the free like UPS
Mailer.
Yeah, mailer from the post office. But so he goes into the crowd. And now I did laugh because I swear to God, I don't know if you agree with me, but so they're having kids do it, which I think is a nice touch. But I swear to God, the guy that pulled Lawler and Jarrett's name out was a plant. I swear he was, because there are a bunch of kids and he's like obviously like a short 5-year-old guy they had pulled out.
Hello there, fellow kids. May I pull out of
it's like he's got a fucking beard, dude.
Fellow kids. Yeah.
But I thought this was a fun little segment. I think that was a nice like touch to have the kids pull the names out. So then, so our teams for this is going to be the Moondogs, Brian Christopher and Dr. Death, Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett, the Star Riders, Iceman King Parsons, which I hope he shows up on TV because I love me some. He's got one of my favorite promos of all time when he wins like the world title. He's like, that's right, like a black man won the world title. It's one of my favorite promos. And he's with Terry Jackson. I don't know who that is. Dirty White Boy and Kat Garrett. Eric Embry and Tony Falk. And then Tom Pritchard and Ricky Hayes. So
there's a couple of jobbers in there, but I was excited about this. Like, I was like, I kind of want to see this, like, this tough enough battle royal.
Yeah.
And they're fighting for $10,000, which I like that they put like. I hate when they do stuff now and like they'll do something like, oh well, they're fighting for $2,500. I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking scramble my brains for $2,500. Like I like that they put like a believable amount of money on the line.
You mean like on Dynamite when they had the $400,000 challenge in a 4v4 match?
Yeah.
It's like, hell yeah, man, I'll go out there and fight and try and rack up $100K. Let's do that.
Like,
and we get to slap Ricochet's bald head. Come on, man, I'm in.
Like, remember when like they started like the Chris Masters like Master Lock Challenge? Like, I have $500. Like, oh come on, dude. Like, no one's gonna do this for $500.
Yeah.
Like, once taxes gets a hold of it, that's like $250. Like, chill out.
No, it's not quite $250. I think it's about $350.
That's true. But the problem is, though, if you don't pay the gift tax, then IRS is going to come and tear up your headdress right in front of you.
God. I can't decide whether that angle is awful or
no.
genius.
It's fucking hilarious just seeing Tatanka try and pretend like he gives a shit about this like stupid headdress. Where he's doing like the Charlton Heston, like, they blew it up.
I still laugh at that. I haven't seen it in a long time. I still laugh at that.
That's on my like.
He said pay his taxes, his gift tax.
I have like the I'm in a depressed mood.
Why?
I have a list of videos that's my depressed. I need to laugh one, and that's in there with like the invisible grenade and like Chuck Taylor trying to drown Archibald Peck in the painting.
In the paint, oh my god.
And the guy, the skyscraper's beating the crap out of that jobber is like in my humor list too.
I keep the that damn CD player featuring the Colony in mind.
Or
because Larry Sweeney's laugh just makes the whole thing.
I don't have it anymore. I used to laugh so hard at Mark Henry not being able to like open the cage door.
Oh.
Or there's that other one where like AJ does the top rope move and he just flops to the ground and like totally misses. That one makes me laugh. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So Richard Lee promo. He introduces our Moondog Spike replacement. So it's Moondog Cujo, who is like a veteran. Like he was in WWF in the mid 80s as Cousin Junior. And then he's wrestled around a bit. I think it was like King Harley Hog. I'm guessing that was also like I'm guessing that was the non-WWF name in like Memphis for his hillbilly gimmick.
Sure it wasn't a biker gimmick?
No, well, it might have been, but like, cause what was Hillbilly Jim's name? He was he just no, he was Harley Davis.
Okay.
Or something like that. Or no, he's Harley David. No, I don't remember his name. It was something like that, but he might have either been doing a biker thing or yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so Cujo is our replacement. Doesn't look much different than Spike, to be honest with you.
Harley Davidson.
Yeah. That was his pre.
So he wasn't even like modest about that. He just took the name of the famous like biker.
Yeah. I mean
company,
that is a good wrestling name though if you're doing a biker gimmick. I think that is a good
Or
name.
if you called yourself Harley Davis, you might be able to skate with that.
Yeah. Different time. Less litigious. So they murder jobbers like they are wont to do.
Yeah.
So then we get Brian Christopher versus Pritchard. They wrestle a little bit and it's interesting. Then the Moondogs run in and beat up Pritchard. So we get plenty of Moondog mayhem. So then we get... I'm going to admit I was a little upset about the main event because this was supposed to be the Dirty White Boy and Eric Embry in a stretcher match. So they start going at it. The Moondogs come in and attack the Dirty White Boy. Now, I did like this part. So Eric Embry's on the outside laughing at him. And then he stupidly assumed that he was immune to their attack. And then the Moondogs just beat the crap out of him, too.
Yeah.
And he gets... I also like, though, at the end, because so Jarrett and Lawler run in and fight them off. And then it has the faces standing tall at the end and leaving the ring. And then there's just Eric Embry dead on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I like that Richard Lee was just stomping him while he was out.
Oh, yeah. So I said a while back that there's something I had an issue with the show. And the issue I had with the show is that there was two matches I wanted to see. I wanted to see Tom Pritchard against Brian Christopher to a conclusion. And I really wanted to see Eric Embry versus Dirty White Boy in a stretcher match.
I was so excited
and
for
I
it.
got none of those things. I got none of those things because we had Moondog shenanigans. And it's like, look, if you're going to be like, if it's going to be Tom Pritchard versus like, Kat Garrett or somebody, and you have to, like interrupt, it's like, okay, whatever. If you have Eric Embry versus like, I don't know, Ricky Hayes, it's like, okay, whatever. But you're having like good matches because Tom Pritchard versus Brian Christopher was pretty good.
Yeah, it was
until they like the Moondog shenanigans, and then Eric Embry versus Dirty White Boy. It's like, come on, dude. Like I'm actually digging this Dirty White Boy Eric Embry feud. And you get like a minute of them doing stuff, if that, and then it's like Moondog shenanigans, and it's like,
my
so
problem.
I got frustrated. I'm like, damn you, USWA! Like, give me one of those two matches.
The thing, I would have been fine if they would have run in for Dirty White Boy and Eric Embry. Don't make it a stretcher match. Like, I got really excited by the prospect of a stretcher match.
Yes.
Because you don't see those very often. Like, you don't.
No. Oh, I'm expecting like, oh my god, like this is going to be like a wild brawl. We're going to get like 10 minutes of them just like going back and forth.
Yep.
And it's like, no, you got like maybe 60 seconds.
At least you got like a couple minutes of Pritchard and Christopher, but like I was upset about that because I was like, oh man, it's like a gimmick match.
Yeah. And it was like, well, this is weekly TV. We're probably not going to see that here. And we didn't.
Lame.
Weak.
And then,
Weak, indeed.
yes, then we get a Jarrett and Lawler promo to end the show. So I thought these were both highly entertaining episodes, other than my upset about the stretcher match. I should have known better than to get excited, but I was like irrationally excited for like the stretcher match.
Yeah, the fact that they were winding up for that, and it's just like, ooh, this could. Never mind. I don't know. I understood why that they're trying to sell this, but then on the other hand, it's like, man, come on. I just wanted to. All right.
I think
Here we go.
I think it's worse when like the match could potentially be like good.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun if we had gotten it. And, unfortunately,
Yeah.
maybe they saved that for one of the arena shows.
So we're fourth of the way through 1992.
Mm-hmm.
What have you guys thought at the quarter mark? I've had a lot of fun with it so far.
I've had a lot of fun too.
It has. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
I guess I should have finished my thought before you started, Shad. But
It's
just in general,
okay.
like I express again the point I've made several times on this show that I really wish like I could see some of the matches that they've hyped up for these live shows, because I feel like they're probably like really, really good or entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
So not that I've not enjoyed the TV, I've enjoyed it a lot, but it's obviously, like you said, infomercial. So I wish I could see like some of the actual product. So
I wish
yeah,
it was
yeah.
out there because they taped it. Like, so they taped at least some of it.
Yeah. I myself, in watching this, I'm going to say surprised by who I've really felt drawn to. Like, I would not have expected when we went into this that I'd be like, man, I'm here for some Coco Ware. Let's do this. But then it's also been interesting to see a spot where there is some more old school style wrestling done properly. Because there's not a lot of swish, 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 swish moves. And in a lot of cases, the guy, it works out well. It's interesting to watch.
I think seeing how it morphs over time, because it's a weekly territory, like seeing, I don't know, like seeing the last, like, I don't know, 6 episodes where you can tell they've been trying to like try some new talent out, and seeing like, okay, Dr. Death kind of worked because he had some talent, but then you get like the Young Gun who sucked, so he just disappears, like the Fat Boys who no show, like the Star Riders who aren't I don't think are gonna work. Just seeing like kind of like the fit, like the short-lived failures that they move on from, I think are kind of interesting, and like kind of just a historical way, like seeing these like little forgotten footnotes that were maybe like a 1-week appearance.
Yeah, to see, well, and to see them adapt and be like, no, we're not
feeling it.
Yeah, this isn't working.
But it's been a lot of fun. I think it makes me wish like modern TV was as interesting on a week-to-week basis.
I would say it depends. Because I am, well, I will just wait.
I think the economy with their time too, like everything matters. Like you don't get, it's not like, oh, okay, I can come back in 2 minutes because they gotta do their entrance for 2 minutes.
I think that it's the very different format where they're trying to get people into the building every week lends to some particular quirks or idiosyncrasies for the two of them for this particular place that is very different than the the weekly TV format that we've been getting for a long time.
And it's nice, like, on a
Yeah.
weekly basis that they don't have to do, they're like, oh, I don't have to enter the ring and do my exact same, like, little entrance, like, dance every single time the
Yeah.
exact same way. Like, I appreciate that it feels more, like, authentic. This feels like, this feels like, it feels like a bunch of just degenerates fighting over money and, like, fame.
Okay.
Like, I like that feeling of it. Like, it's a bunch of
Yeah.
weirdos and degens, like, just duking it out for a living.
Yeah. I follow you with that. It's much easier to buy into it that way.
Yeah, it's like, because, like, Dirty White Boy, it's like, as a character, it's like, what would you be doing if you weren't wrestling? Oh, you'd probably be in prison.
Ain't no telling.
Yeah. But I think that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us as always. Don't know what we're doing next week, but we'll let you know on that front. As always, this is Matt, Shad, and Brad in 3 Corners, and you're in the 4th. So we will see you